Have you ever had your music placed on one of those playlists that's like big movie soundtrack? So like the Joker soundtrack or like Outer Banks season 4 soundtrack. And most of the songs on that playlist are songs that actually were in that show or movie, but then there's also some random songs, including yours. So this is actually a pretty common marketing technique. Personally, I've always thought it was pretty weird, but I also know there's totally a reason why it happens and why playlisting companies do it. So in this video, I'm going to break down what I see as the pros and cons of the soundtrack playlist approach, and I'll give you my 2 cents on whether or not they're harmful or good for your music. So with that said, let's get into it. So first off, the rationale or like why these playlists exist. And the simple reason is just that they're easier to advertise. It is easier to market something that people already know. And this is why Nike wanted Michael Jordan, because by association, then Nike was cool because people knew Michael Jordan was cool. So then Nike was cool. By association, like an artist that features in a Taylor Swift song is going to get a lot more plays. By association, if your music is associated with a big TV show or a big movie, then there's a built-in audience for it. Like you're tapping into that audience. And it's the same for the playlists themselves. So say you're a playlist curator, you're building playlists. It is easier to run ads to a playlist that has the soundtrack name. So Joker soundtrack or Deadpool, Wolverine, however they did that title, soundtrack, or X movie soundtrack. When you show ads that have that famous thing as a large part of the title, there's automatically an audience of people that are interested in them, and so it's easier to get followers of the playlist and listeners on the playlist because an audience for the playlist already exists. In the same way, it's pretty common for users of Spotify to search for those playlist titles on Spotify. So if you are a big fan of Marvel movies, you search a Marvel movie soundtrack. That's a pretty common thing to listen to. Lord of the Rings soundtrack, Marvel soundtrack, you get the idea. And so it's easier to build playlists that are soundtrack playlists. Those playlists tend to have big audiences and get lots of streams. So they are legitimate in that way. On the flip side of things, though, I think they're also pretty clearly misleading. So it's not illegal to make a playlist that is called Outer Banks Season 4 soundtrack, which, by the way, Outer Banks Season 4 is much better than Seasons 2 and 3. It's not illegal to make that playlist and put songs that are not actually from the show on the playlist, but I do think it's misleading to the users who are following that playlist. When they're going to listen to that playlist, they want songs from the show. They're not necessarily thinking that it's going to be some random indie artist that they have never heard of included in the 40th or 400th spot on that playlist. And so that pretty much leads into the pros and cons. On the plus side of things, if you are on one of these playlists, you will get a ton of streams. As long as it's a legitimate playlist, which many of these are. Those have big audiences built up around that TV show or movie. On the negative side, you'll almost always see low engagement rates because the people who are following that playlist care about that show or movie. They don't care about you. And so you'll probably see streams per listener below 2 for sure, probably below 1.5. You won't see very many saves, but you will see a lot of streams. So should you be on one of these playlists? Is it a good thing or a bad thing? Well, it just depends what you want. Most of the time, I would say it's probably not worth your time or money because as soon as you're taking off those playlists, all the streams are going to go down. If for some reason you want to hit a streaming threshold, just in terms of pure numbers, it can be a helpful way to do that because those playlists are popular and they do get lots of streams. So short answer, in general, I would say probably avoid those types of playlists because they're going to dampen your engagement rates, which is worse long term. But if you have a specific reason you want a specific number of streams, could be helpful. So that's my take on these big soundtrack playlists. Hope that was helpful. And yeah, if you're interested in learning more about Spotify marketing, I have a free mini course at the link below. I also have a community where I do one-on-one calls with artists and I tell them to their face not to be on the Joker Fola Do or whatever soundtrack playlist for the most part. But wishing you good luck as you market your music. It's a weird world out there. And yeah, keep at it. You got this.